States across Nigeria have been challenged to have integrity, transparency and accountability in order to attract support from donor agencies and improve the standard of living of citizens. The chairman of the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, Mr. Eponta, gave the charge at an event in Calabar, the Cross River State capital.
The judiciary that is entrusted with the power of saying you are guilty or not guilty. Every other thing is mere social media hype. And that's why I look forward to a very, very independent and strong judiciary. So when you see them taking certain decisions which people say, no, it's anti-government. No, it's not anti-government. It is, as a matter of fact, a support of good governance and independence of the judiciary. So we must commend them in that respect. You might have one or two bad decisions, but that's why you have an appeal court and a Supreme Court. You cannot, on the basis of social media, send people to jail.
The tenets of ICPC underpins our governmental operations, and this is something that we've internalized in terms of how we conduct government business. And as soon as we saw that the ICPC was looking to do an anti-corruption summit, we thought that they would be the perfect partner for the state government to deal with in terms of trying to drive home the importance of discipline and the message of anti-corruption across the country, and mostly with serving public servants.
Staying in Cross River State, where the federal government is to investigate what caused the fire disaster which claimed 10 lives at the Calabar Free Trade Zone over the weekend. The Managing Director of Nigeria Export Processing Zone Authority, Honorable Emmanuel Jime, who visited the scene, says there are suspicions that illegal practices going on at the tank farm may be responsible for the incident.
Sunday, July 16th remains a dark day for the Esukutan community, as well as those doing business at the Calabar Export Processing Zone, following a fire disaster that killed 10 people, with several others sustaining various degrees of burns. 48 hours later, the management of the Nigeria Export Processing Zone Authority, NEPZA, alongside other federal delegations, are at the Free Trade Zone to see the level of destruction. The NEPZA boss believes the act was carried out against the agency's safety regulations, promising to investigate the matter.
Preliminary reports that I've read so far, it does appear, that somebody was actually meddling, with the pipes. So it's perhaps safe, to say that there was some economic and to some extent even a criminal intent. But we are not able to say that with any certainty right now until investigations are thoroughly conducted. Our job as an authority is first to conduct our own internal findings and then to be able to also work with other security agencies.
The team also visited the University of Calabar Teaching Hospital to see survivors of the fire disaster. The Chief Medical Director, UCTH, Professor Thomas Agon, assures that the medical team will do all it can to stabilize the condition of the survivors.
6 of them were brought in dead. 11 were managed with very severe burns, between 50 and 90% burns, which is quite extensive. 4 of them, as at today, are dead. 7 are alive with various degrees of burns. That's still being managed by us.
We'll keep liaising with them, of course, and talking, because our desire is to see that the 7 or so who are still left, that they're able to go back home to their loved ones and to their families.
While condoling with families of those who lost their loved ones, the management of NEPZA says investigation is ongoing into the root cause of the inferno, and anyone found culpable will be sanctioned.
We'll come back to Lagos, where the Department of Petroleum Resources has shut down some filling stations in Victoria Island and Lekki axis for safety reasons. The DPR sealed the affected stations for having water in their underground tanks which occurred because of the recent flooding. The affected stations will now have to report to the agency when the corrections are made before they reopen for business.
This is clearly meant to deter dispensing fuel stations who do not consistently stay compliant to industry regulations for their operations.
So until you are ready to evacuate, everything is under seal and is decommissioned. No need to use it. No discharge, no load.
Yes, the rains poured in torrents, causing flood water. Yes, some damages occurred, and severely so, in certain parts of the state. But it's not good enough reason why systems less fortified should not fail. After the rains which caused flood water, came concerns that fuel stations which got flooded may have had their underground tanks compromised, which eventually will cause damages to vehicles. On this visit, already some fuel stations in Victoria Island and Lekki have been found culpable following this unscheduled visit by the Department of Petroleum Resources, which detected stations where water has mixed with petroleum products after the flood.
We have checked and we're continuing to check petrol stations both in the mainland and the island, and the stations that their pumps, their tanks have seen to contain water. Those tanks have been decommissioned. And the stations that have so much water in their tanks, we have sealed them. And we continue to do it on and on and on. It's going to be a continuous check. And the public is way aware that, yes, they have to buy products that don't have water in them. Because what they are purchasing is not water, but fuel for their vehicles.
The affected stations will remain shut until the problem is fixed and a clean bill of health from the oil, please. Olo Phillips, Channels Television News.
The House of Representatives has opened investigations into the implementation of projects earmarked by the Universal Basic Education in states that have received counterpart funding from the federal government. The chairman of the House Committee on Basic Education and Services, who led his team around facilities in Akwa Ibom and Rivers State, explains that more still needs to be done.
The House of Representatives team for basic education arrives at the complex of the State Universal Basic Education Board in Uyo, the Akwa Ibom state capital. The performance of the state has been put at average, but they are here to see what has been done. The secretary to the state government gives his report.
The primary school headmasters and the secondary school principal to provide basic things like chalk, all of those little things that were necessitated, they are having to levy the kids.
On inspection of some facilities, the observers are not completely satisfied.
So why did they bring the things together? How can you approve all these things?
The only thing that is a recurring decimal is the case of the furniture. And we have looked at wood. It's one of the things that we include in our report and say, okay, one of the things that we're going forward we should do is to ensure that the component parts of the contract furniture is very key, because all that we have gone through, that has been very constant.
The chairman of the State Universal Basic Education Board believes more funding is needed for the sector.
We have many structures being renovated and constructed, and based on the provisions and the guidelines for UBEC counterpart funding, what is provided for furniture is just 8% of the total amount. So what is available is not enough for the structures, the massive renovation and construction here.
Over in Rivers State, the committee chairman encourages the state governor to make his schools a reference point for other states. Governor Wike explains that counterpart funding was obtained only a short time ago, but he plans to put it to good use.
We are flagging off the total rehabilitation of 174 of the primary schools in the state. When I was going around the unity schools, I discovered that none of the schools had a functional library. UBEC covers junior secondary school. So I came under that as well. They have to assess the fund for UBEC to fund library for the junior secondary school.
With the trip to Rivers State, the committee brings to an end its inspection tour, which involved Akwa Ibom, Delta, and Rivers States.